my name is Dylan Jones. My father's here is Wyn Jones as well. And we farm, it's a family-run business, Castellior here, just over 800 acres, primarily beef and arable, finishing 1,600 head of cattle annually in a self-sufficient, low-carbon system. Just a quick idea of what we're doing here on Castellior. So, going back to 2016, when we were a beef and sheep farm, lambing up to 900 sheep and finishing 700 cattle. And the changes we've done from then to today, where we're finishing 1,600 cattle. I think the main reason for that change was there was some targets we needed to hit when it came to the environmental side of farming, and also, just streamlining the business really. Being self-sufficient is at the core of the farm really. We're growing up to 700 acres of silage, and that will entail 130 acres of hybrid ryegrasses and high-pro lays, and then there's 30 acres of red clover. So that's over 4 to 5 patches really. And there's 350 acres of barley on the farm, and the rotation is 2 to 3. I think after we had an open day here by Future Farmers of Wales, and one of the questions from one of those farmers that came on the tour was, how can you ever hit your environmental goals with being such an intensive system? And that really, it played on my mind really. And we were full on with the lambing up to 900 to 1,000 sheep and finishing 700 cattle. And the cost that came along with that, we were buying urea really early in the year, soya, anything we could to finish the cattle really. So it was a basic trying to streamline things. We knew finishing 700 cattle then, back in 2016, that we could do that self-sufficiently. So it was basically trying to exaggerate that, and we were growing about 100 acres of barley then. We were trying to get that carcass weight per acre up. So it was around 330 kilograms of carcass weight per acre back in 2016. And we put a lot of that cost back, using much less fertilizer. We're hitting 600 kilograms an acre at this moment. These are pure heifers. It's basically something new for us. We used to give 50, 60 heifers, and we've gone after them for about 10 years, and we're back into them now. So, why we've gone back to heifers? It was just, we need the stock. We need the stock, and it was availability really. We're going through to the pea field, so there's peas field, pea and barley, and we'll go through then to the spring barley. Okay. Just going through the fields there, as you see, the middle field there were the peas and barley. Absolutely fantastic crop. We're coming through, that's all been crimped as well. So the peas are coming through, they're called by nuts, 22% protein, and it's going on just a layer through the crimp shed. So we're doing all the farm work ourselves. There's no contractors come in, except for Yayan with a mill. A local lad comes in with a mill to mill the barley. All the barley is crimped, so it's 330 to 350 acres of barley, and it's all crimped. But crimping's definitely something that's going to stay here on the farm. We get that massive starch coming through, maybe losing a slight percentage on the protein, but if we're getting protein through on our red clover, I'm not really worried about that. It's the starch we need. So it's a massive starch, and it's really simple to do. You get in there, you can combine it, it's milled and it's sealed just exactly as you'd be doing on a silage pit. So this is a field options lay, a 2 to 3 year lay. We put about 1.5 kilos extra of red clover in when we're mixing it just in the tub. So we put an acre bag in, and we put 1 kilo to 1.5 kilos red clover in with it. And that'll be our rotation for 2 to 3 years. And so on the first cut with absolutely no chemical nitrogen at all. And yeah, we're going for the second cut. We're going back 10 days ago, 12 days ago on this cut. And we've only had about an hour and a half of rain since then. One of the main things with red clover, especially in a drought like this, when that taproot goes down 18 inches, it'll find water anywhere. So with so much red clover on the farm, we've basically got growth even on the drier seasons. It's a tight rotation really on an 820 acre farm when you've got that 2 to 3 year rotation. And I think the biggest benefit we get from that is using very little chemical nitrogen. The lays are active and they grow very quickly on very little chemical nitrogen. So that was the aim there. So going from a 7 year rotation to a 2 to 3 year rotation, and utilising as much of the manure as we can. We produce a massive manure. You know, for 330 acres of barley is 2,500 straw bales, and that's all goes under the cattle, and that's all then ploughed in, going in with 10 to 12 tonnes an acre. The analysis on the last manure batch came in at 5,420 MPK. So the massive bonus of ploughing is you can utilise up to 15 tonnes an acre of manure, compared to your min-till, no-till, where you can go, maybe you'll get away with 5 tonne an acre. And those roots, it's that organic matter in the ground, the roots will just go to depth. And even on your environmental angle on min-till or no-till, the same thing, when you plough you lose all that carbon, you lose a small percentage, yes, but if you can incorporate 12 tonnes of manure, get that back in there, all that organic matter, it only takes any carbon you lose. Of June, being an intensive system as we were, I wasn't willing to step back from the intensity. I wanted to carry on the farm as intensely as I could and hit my environmental goals, and that's been the target really. That's been the target. So it just goes to prove it's not all about planting trees, it's not all about rewilding.
Once you've combined this, you're left with the straw you're then trying to turn into bedding.
Yes.
Is that difficult? Do you find drying the green straw hard, or
no,
how do you get on?
You basically wouldn't see the difference between it would be well past green. If you were to drive past this field, you'd never say it was green. I'm going in at 25 to 32% moisture. So the stand is straw. It's the greenness is gone. You need on weather like today with the breeze and the temperature, you can get maybe 5 days really, maybe down to 5 days. Don't touch it, let it go and put it through. We're going through to the next field. That's a 2 to 3 year lay on its 4th year. So that's, if we need some grazing land, that just works really well. It's had absolutely no fertiliser, and it's grazing 2 to an acre So it just proves a 2 to 3 on its 4th year, and it still leaves twice as good cattle. And they're the next better cattle to go through into the feeding system. They're touching 450 to 500 kilo, and they'll be coming in next. Right then, this is where we bring the cattle on. This is the first step really when they're coming in. We've got some heifers behind you there. Just behind me here, these are the bread and butter really, where dairy beef finishes with probably 95 or 90% of the cattle are dairy based coming through the system. And it's nothing new for us. We're on the 3rd generation of doing this. The way I look at it is, if I had £100,000 to go into market, I could bring an extra 20-30 head of dairy cross cattle compared to your continental secular unit. Each to their own, but this seems to work well for us. It takes my pound even further then. We are driving for good genetics. That's what we really need to go through the farm. You know, good genetics that perform, cattle that thrive, that's what we're after. So I am tracking all these cattle. Every single steer that will leave the farm will have between 8 and 10 weights beside it. So I'll have a graph on every single steer. So I can see which farms perform best and try and go back to them and buy from them again and again and again. If we can get good genetics coming through again and again, it just makes life much easier for us. We want those cattle to hit 1.6 plus. And we're doing that pretty, it was 1.66 2 weeks ago. Last week's 1.83. So we are hitting those high numbers on what we can grow ourselves. So as you've seen, we've got limbs, we've got Belgian blues, we've got cementals, we've got across the board when it comes to, but I'm looking at my top gainers every 2 to 3 months, and I can guarantee you it'll be those strong derriers that are coming through. It'll be even Holstein or they just generate weight so quickly. I know those frames eat, but if they're hitting those large 1.9s to 2 kilo a day, I'm not going to complain. On average, there's about 500 cattle housed throughout the year. We've a fair bit of Angus is going every week. Yes, I think the extra we're paying to get them in, there's a bonus on Angus. We've already spent that to get that Angus on the farm. But just constant, really steady gainers. I'm finding them around the 1.5 to 1.7, nothing more than that really. I do see the Angus is getting smaller.
I was going to ask, your final carcass weight on Angus would be a lot less than something?
Yeah, definitely. It's like me trying to eat more to reach 6 foot. It's never going to happen. So we're just getting those cattle finished, really. Getting that carcass weight in a decent, we need it to, on all honesty, most of the Angus is coming through today. We're finishing at 580, I should think, and they're 3 to 4s really fat at that weight.
Is that there a massive variance in the age of finishing?
Yeah, well, yes, there is. Yes, I think out of the batch, I was looking at the cattle that went yesterday on my phone on the tractor there now. They vary from 18 to 31. I'm not really, looking at the age. I'm looking more at the frame of the steer and its weight. That's really what I'm working with. Even if there's a 13-month steer weighing 450 to 500 kilo, he's coming in to finish as standard. I'm a strong believer in keeping the sheds full, taking the good with the bad, and keeping the sheds full. My claims of being self-sufficient, yeah, it's been tried every year really, and this year's no exception. We are buying feed in at the moment, and we're so close to getting a harvest in the field, but we've got to keep the cattle going. I could have really pushed that crimp through, but the cattle doing so well, the price is where it should be, so I am having to buy feed in for the next month really. Every single season's different and it has its challenges, and for any farmer to say I'm totally self-sufficient, well, under an intensive system like this, it's very difficult to say that, because a difficult season will be wet or dry, you've got to adapt, and that's what we've done now. So we'll be back on self-sufficiency train in once I get the harvester back in the field. So that's what we're aiming at. We pick cattle once a week, so on average we're weighing between 100 and 150 cattle every week. And then, it's as simple enough. There's nothing fancy here really. We can TB test 600 cattle in 6 hours with 3 men doing that really, and that's going along in everything we've done. We've tried to make everything as simple as possible. We can, or just one man, or me by myself, I can feed and put bedding to 650 cattle in an hour and 20 minutes. So just getting that simple, things working for you, unless making yourself work for the system. I'm sure how many of you know about Breeder? It's an app. And I was one of the first farms with 3 of us in the beginning, working with Breeder and putting new ideas into it, and just using Castellior as a project farm right in the beginning. We're going back 6-7 years ago, and today, I think there's 18,000 users through Britain. So it's a game changer as far as I'm concerned. When they come through the crush, the weight will go straight into the app here. So it'll tell me that this animal's been on the farm 155 days, which is a long time for us. Average carcass kill is 52, and it'll give me an estimate. I know how much I'm going on the worst case scenario, so I'll go on a -0, on the price of -0, and it'll give me an estimate of how much that steer just happens to be. And it's not on all steers here, and I think as farmers you'll understand, the return on that is going to be 837, which is fantastic. And that gives us a good estimate on the cattle. We know we've got a margin on every single cattle when they leave the farm. So if I've got a steer that we'll say there's a limb coming in weighing 650 and there's really good cover on him, on an average day you'd say, yeah, he's got to go. But if the app says it's going on 1.7, 1.8, and it'll give you a guesstimate on what the margin will be in 3 weeks' time, well, you're obviously going to keep him. So it's giving you more information. It's giving you foresight to the business, really. And so it's Breeder also, it's connected to CTS and BCMS, and so it does all the movements as well as they're coming in. You scan the passport and it's gone. So I'm not dealing at all with CTS or BCMS. I think it's a really good app. It works well for us. Yeah. And there's no such thing as too much information, I suppose.